Welcome to Parenting Differently, where we leave behind the old way of parenting and allow the gifts of motherhood, of parenthood to raise us. Different to how perhaps we were raised, different to how society is telling us to raise our kids, maybe even different to how we expected we would be raising them. Just different. I'm your host, Anya Simmons. Welcome, welcome. I'm a mama of two big people, a yogi, and a previous trained British nanny. So coming into parenting, I thought I had it down. I thought this is just the next step in life and I've got this. And I was super, super shocked and surprised that perhaps I didn't. In fact, I found out I didn't know much and realized that the gift was actually we were being raised together. So I also am an author. That's a bit scary to say, as it's a new book coming out at the end of summer, beginning of fall, called Parent from This Place, where I share my journey and I share how yoga really changed the way that I parented. So I'd love to welcome today a lovely Lisa Winston as a guest on our Parent Differently. And I actually found Lisa online. We were doing a group program together. And I loved your realness and your authenticity as how you show up. So I did a bit of research and then I was like, we need her on here, because I realized that, I knew that and I know that having people who have already gone through the parenting journey and can reflect back, right? And can offer our pieces of wisdom that we now know that maybe we didn't back then in the midst of it all, right? And not with regret and shame, just with this sort of awareness, and passing these on to other mothers is a true passion of mine. So Lisa is the host of Mindset Reset TV, an international bestseller, author, inspirational speaker, a musician, a vocalist, and a mama. So welcome, Lisa. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here, and congratulations on your upcoming book. That's
Thank
super
you.
exciting.
It is. It's kind of scary, but yeah, I'm looking to be more excited and more rather than oh. So thank you. So Lisa, we're jumping with my first question for all guests is, who are you and who are you mothering?
I love those questions, and that's a deep one, because like I said to you earlier, I'm evolving. Who I am right now is I'm still kind of upgrading my business and my vibration. And so I work primarily with women over 45, and I work with a lot of women who are going through transitions, divorce, widowhood, empty nest, etc., and really help them to step into their next best chapter. And whether that's an entrepreneurship or just getting past all the stigma about getting older. And I use a lot of mindset work, and I'm an intuitive empath and a sensitive. And I do a lot of other things too. But I love the question about who I am parenting. And I didn't think I was a good fit for the show. I'm like, my daughter's 26.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
grown, she hasn't lived with me, and I haven't seen her in a year and a half, which just kills me. But who I am parenting now, even though she's not with me, is very different than who I was. Yeah. I have learned so much in the last, 7 or 8 or 9 years since I haven't been with her constantly. And I've been out of the toxicity of trying to co-parent with a narcissist, which there is no co-parent, parenting with a narcissist.
Right.
But I'm trying to come from a space of really being her friend, listening to her, supporting her in her new endeavors, just listening when she brings up her dad or her emotional issues, being a better listener than I've ever been, and more accepting of who she is and who she's becoming, as opposed to trying to tell her what to do all the time. Right. So I'm learning. I'm on the path just like the rest of us. And I certainly wish I would have been a better listener back then, but no time like the present, right?
That's right. We only have now. We don't know about that. Yes. Yeah. I hear you with that. So if we go back just a little bit, like how do you feel about how you were raised?
Okay. Not great. I had a lot of trauma drama because I was a sensitive, intuitive, very empathic child. And I came onto the planet with lots of fear. I was very anxious. I always was very needy, but nobody knew, how sensitive I was. Like, they'd make jokes about me and I would cry and they'd say, you have no sense of humor. And so I always felt lost from the beginning, and I had a lot of, very traumatic things happen to me really throughout my whole entire lifetime.
Right.
So I never felt really, I know my parents loved me in their way the best that they could, because they came from a lot of trauma too, but I didn't know that back then. Right. And so I grew up not feeling loved, not feeling accepted, not feeling seen. And I think I brought a lot of past lifetime stuff into, which I'm actually still trying to clear, not feeling safe. So my childhood was weird because it was a combination. We had good times. My parents really took care of us and all of that, but I still felt disconnected, and I felt unloved. And so that's what I lived with my whole life.
And that's what you then bring into motherhood.
Yep.
As we know, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And absolutely. Absolutely. That's a lot that we carry then in. And then society tells us we should just know how to do this parenting thing then.
Oh my God.
You should just know. You should be this kind, loving, patient self.
Dogs know how to live better than we do intuitively, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And God bless my parents. They're both passed. And I get to see now as an adult myself and a mother myself that they, my mother was quote unquote illegitimate, which really affected her whole life. My dad was one of 11 kids, and he was farmed out. There was just a lot of, they both had a lot of emotional issues that were unresolved back then, in the 40s and 50s and 60s. I mean, who did anything about it? You just, lived your life. So
yeah. Yeah.
So forgiveness around my parents. Did the best they could. Kind of like me, right?
Kind of like me. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love the word you said at the beginning about evolving. I mean, that's really the key to letting stuff go, I guess, right? And surrendering to certain things, and being able to see your parents in that light that, I'm speaking from my own experience in seeing, I remember when I first had my son, I felt kind of really angry at my parents. They were divorced when I was 6, and I knew I was loved, but I didn't feel it. I've had a lot of the feelings like you had. And I was thinking, my gosh, how could they have this little baby and not do the best they can and all of this? And then you sort of go, oh, actually, have compassion for that. They were just living their life as best they know how too, right?
Yeah. And we wish they were still here. It's when your parents die, something weird happens. You feel like an orphan.
I've heard that. I have both mine. Actually, I have step parents too, and I'm lucky, very grateful that everybody's still there. Yeah.
Yeah, enjoy them, because we take them for granted. And if I would have had more forgiveness for them back then and more acceptance, I probably would have had a better relationship. Although I had a pretty good relationship with my parents. But that's a deep conversation.
Yeah. That's okay.
Anyway, yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Yes.
Forgive them now,
Forgive them now.
Someday they won't be here, and then you will have regret. So
right. It's kind of preempting that, right? Yeah. Okay. And so if we go to when your daughter was younger, and you were saying like co-parenting wasn't a thing, like it sounds like you were a lot on your own in how to parent. Is that right? And so how do you feel that, how do you feel, or what did you try to stay connected to your daughter and to yourself? Were there places, or like we were talking beforehand, right? Our consciousness grew once we had kids.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a great question. There's so many pieces to that. I was so wounded, and I married someone who I knew wasn't right for me, but because I was looking for love, desperate for love, I always picked the wrong men, and he was very abusive emotionally and physically. And we divorced actually when she was 3.
Okay.
And that was very hard, because then he married an attorney. She was also a narcissist. So my daughter was stuck. My daughter was stuck between a shit sandwich. I mean, she couldn't get out. So really the 18 years of her whole life were horrific, and all kinds of situations that I tried to fix and couldn't, because I had these very unconscious, angry, wounded people, around me and her. As far as when she was little, I mean, let's just face it, when you have kids, you love them more than life itself.
Yeah.
You just do.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would do a lot of things when she was very little. We'd go to SeaWorld. We lived in California, so we go to SeaWorld. We go to and we spent a lot of time together when she was little, just playing together and being together. And then, when we got divorced and the back and forth started and the trauma and the emotional stuff happened, we still did some of that. But I really saw that she was slipping away from me. And then I was in a 15-year relationship that was a guy who was very supportive, but very toxic. And I stayed because I needed a roof over my head and I was trying to raise my daughter. So he was there to raise her, but yet he was incredibly critical, negative, etc. And so again, she just was stuck between a whole bunch of unconscious people.
Right.
And so I felt that what I did was loving her. She had a lot of issues like ADHD. And I wanted to share, can I share a little bit about that?
Yeah, please do. Absolutely.
When I was in school as a child, I couldn't focus. I didn't know how to do math. I didn't process much of anything. I liked art class and English, really.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really told most of my life to sit in the back of the room and flunk, because nobody knew about, things like executive dysfunction, which encompasses depression and anxiety and ADHD and all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really was destructive to me because I was made to feel stupid.
Yeah.
Well, my daughter has the same issues. I mean, some people just don't thrive in the public school system, and the public school
100%.
system,
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Even though they have, things like IEPs and things like that, they label you as special education, which is already damaging in itself, because even though that means you can be really smart, most people think it means you're really stupid.
Right.
And so I just want to keep parents aware that if your child has trouble concentrating, focusing, they're fidgeting, they don't process things well, they don't test well, there's this whole gamut. You can read about it, you can research it. They probably have, and now when you look it up, they labeled it as mental illness. And that makes me so angry because mental illness has such a stigma around it.
Yes.
In reality, it can be mental illness, because I had a lot of that in my family. Mm-hmm. But I think what it is more about is, how we process things as individuals. We each learn a different way, right? And the public school system is set up to teach your children one way, and that's it. You can go to Montessori, you can go to other schools, but my child was so damaged, not just from the relationship with her father, stepmother, and me, but from the public school system, the way she was tossed around. She wasn't listened to. She wasn't paid attention to. She was frustrated. She was stuck in a special education, which made her feel like she was on the outs. Nobody liked her. And I mean, it really messes your kid up when, number one, you don't accept and embrace who they are, how they learn, and that's really a part of it. I tried to get her help and I was desperate for help. But I think there was a part of me that didn't really accept all of it because I was frustrated with the school system. I was a professional musician. I didn't have a lot of money to put her in a private school.
Right.
And I didn't have any help from my ex-husband. So
I agree. Like this, and there's no support around it. There wasn't for you, and for many mothers and parents feeling the same way. And then we come with our own preconceived ideas, because that idea of mental health, or the idea we had at my school in England. I grew up in a small town, and I forget. I don't even know that I don't think it was A to Z in terms of how they were. But I was in J, and I knew J was like 5 from the top, whatever that means. And so I was stunned because I thought I was smarter. And so I already accepted that I wasn't smarter. Right. And then you continue from there.
That's your story, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Me too. And it's not it at all. It's funny. As a matter of fact, since my daughter has moved out on her own, she's been out since, she was like 19.
Right. And
she had to find her way. She had a lot of trouble with money. But because I was so dysfunctional, with the same kind of problems. I had trouble setting boundaries. I had trouble really helping her with her math because I wasn't clear about how to do it myself.
Yes.
And so, my story is I don't know how.
Yes. Yes.
So, she is incredibly bright. She is a creative like me. Right? So she doesn't like structure. But she's very responsible, shows up for her job, but she's now she's doing metalsmithing and making jewelry and finding what she really loves to do. And she's so much smarter than I was.
Right.
And so she's talking about starting her own business. And we were talking about how, it's like for me as an entrepreneur, it was really hard to start a business because I don't like the back end work. I just want to do,
right. Yeah. I hear you on that.
That's why you hire people. But I told her, I said, you can do it too. You just have to find a way to make it work, and you can make it work. It doesn't have to look like everybody else. You know, we always say, I used to say, I wish I was like everybody else and I got a 9-to-5 job and got retirement. That would have killed me if I did it. Right.
We wouldn't have made it to retirement, you know.
I wouldn't be here. Right. Exactly. So, I mean, there are just so many different ways that people process and live and learn. And we have to, this society, the United States, I'm sorry, is just so screwed up in so many respects, from healthcare to whatever, to the school system. And you think in this day and age, people would have a clue. I mean, it's coming along, but we don't embrace everybody with their differences. We don't.
No, absolutely. And I hear with that in terms of this passion I have about this old way of parenting being how we have to evolve from that, because the home is where it's going to start, right? And so this idea that we're up here and the kids are down here and we are wiser. Whereas like you say, the kids have it. We just got to get out the way. We've just got to provide this sort of safe area for them to kind of knock over here and knock over here, like, you know, a safe place to land, because for the world to change, for people to change and realize like, that school system hasn't changed in all these years. And there's some fantastic, we're not talking teachers, right? There's amazing teachers, amazing principals. We get that, thank goodness. You know,
a lot of their hands are tied too, because
completely. They've got those numbers at the end of each month. Absolutely. No, thank you for sharing that. I think that's a good one to pinpoint, you know.
I think it's a big piece of, you know, allowing your child to flourish as they grow up, as opposed to being so, you know, constricted and the nose and the, you're stupid and you can't do it. I mean, that really affects you for the rest of your life.
It's your story, right? It puts a little knot in there. Yeah,
it does.
Fully agree. Absolutely. Okay, let me have a little look over here where we were. So actually, this would be kind of cool to talk on, based on all the skills that you work with now with mindset and all of the others after my lovely research. How different do you think that would have showed up in your, how different a parent would you have been with even some of those tools? If we work with meditation, if we work with mindset, if we work with breath?
Things would have been a lot different. I mean, first of all, my situation being in an emotional, toxic, you know, relationships, that wasn't good for me. I ended up leaving when she was 18 or 17 or 18 and taking her and leaving that relationship. But I would have left a lot longer if I would have been more confident that I could make it on my own. I would have removed her. Like, she always would have been connected to her dad. As much as they hate each other, or she hates him sometimes, she still loves him. It's still her father.
Right.
You know, so I never wanted to take her away, even though I did. It was one of those, you know, I don't, but I do, because I don't want her to be mad at me. So your environment, number one, like you were saying, is really important. And if you can't get out of your environment, you know, then how can you make changes? You know, you can be that safe person that your child goes to. You can be the person that has common sense and compassion. And you can be the person that takes your child to her bedroom and has her calm down and do a little meditation, sit in stillness. You know, they learn from us. It's if they see us doing the practices, she saw me doing Qigong and things like that for hours a day in later years. But by that time, everything was already set in stone, you know? And again, if I was, you know, if she had a different dad and everything was different, it would have been different in the confines of where I was. If I was more conscious, you know, I would have done everything I could to, like I said, I would have listened to her. You know, there were a couple times I did things like when she cause she learned to manipulate like her father did, of course. And I said, you're just like your dad sometimes, cause I would get really angry. So I would take out my anger and frustration on her every once in a while. And then I felt guilty about it later, because it was kind of like, this kid didn't know what was going on. It's like we have a new puppy right now, right?
Oh,
for everything. And they're watching you and they're following you. They don't know what to do, you know, and they feed off of your emotions too. Yes. So I would have been much more even in my emotions. I would have just said, let's calm down for a minute. Let's talk. I would have talked to her. I talked to her, but a lot of times I talked at her.
Yes. I think
I didn't allow her to express her opinions. I said it was this way or that way. I mean, my kid ended up having a lot of emotional issues, you know, and I'm not going to go into what they were.
No, it's
But
private to
can you
her.
imagine being around so many unconscious adults and feeling like you didn't know which end was up, like you're going crazy?
Mm-hmm.
One of you has to be, as a mother or your father, whatever it is, has to be that grounded, centered place of safety and love, and a place where somebody can sit down and you know, when a kid does something quote unquote bad or whatever,
Yeah.
sit down and talk about it, explain it out. I have a niece
Mm-hmm.
who has a little boy, and she does that, and I could cry when I look at it, because I'm like,
Yeah.
God, I wish I would have had that relationship with Sarah, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would just have done things not perfectly, because I'm not perfect, but
No.
you know, much better, so that she
Right.
known she had power, that she had an opinion, that she mattered, and that she was accepted and loved.
Yeah. Yeah. Our ideal, right? The
These
ideal.
conversations always make me emotional, because I told you, I still am working through some
Yeah.
karmic stuff, some regret, trying to let it go.
Mm.
But it's hard when you love your kids so much and you see
Oh,
them struggle
yeah.
because of your crap, you know?
Yeah, yeah, but again, yes, absolutely. I get that. So I don't want to jump over that. But
Oh, yeah.
I also see the how empowering it is still for her in her journey. I mean, not her, our kids. I shouldn't say her because I don't know her. So I'm just talking generalized. That they see that you are trying and trying again to get it right. You are working, doing the work. You are showing up as best and messy and fucked up as we all are. You are showing up again and again and messing up and making it good and then messing up, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not all over, right? And it's like how do we shed some of that guilt, which is massive, and shame. And
Yeah.
then I was wondering then, so how have you found, and I can share from my too, to make it better at time? Like, are you okay to apologize? I know what your
Yeah.
Mr. Joe Vitale does. So that, because I've used that a lot in my yoga. So I don't want to touch that for
Yeah.
myself. But I'm thinking like in this idea to forgive you and to apologize and to be that person now for her, if and when she needs it.
Yeah, you know, it's a great question, because first of all, you know, I remember going to see her in Oregon. This was a couple of years ago, and we keep working on our relationship. I mean, I really do show up for her, and she knows it. Like, she really
That's it.
knows it. She
That's
doesn't.
healing. Yep.
Yeah, but she used to get really angry with me. And one time we were in the car and she just went off, and she accused me of being the one that was screwed up, not her dad, and that I did everything wrong and I wasn't there for her, which is like a knife to your heart when you were the one who was always there for her.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
as much as she was in your own way. And so I think what I've learned to do, like I shared with you earlier, is that, you know, she did this a couple times. She's accused me of things or gotten angry with me, and then I would lash out. I would lash back. You know, because I mean, it triggered me.
Sure.
And so now something happened. I did this leadership work a couple of years ago, and she did too, which was really big. It was a huge shift for both of us, kind of owning our own shit and, you know, letting somebody get angry, but not taking it personally, which is really hard as a mom, because we feel responsible, right?
Yeah.
For everything.
Yeah.
Our fault, whatever. And so now it's kind of like, if we ever get into an argument or a heated discussion, you know, I'll just say, okay, I think, you know, maybe we should just not talk for a while, and then we'll just end the conversation. But I'm trying to get to a place of like, she's allowed to be angry and I'm allowed to be angry. It's not right or wrong, good or bad. It's what it is. And in reality,
And it's a real emotion.
Yeah, it's healthy to work through that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of pent up shit going on in there. And she has health challenges too. And she more than likely 99% has Lyme disease, because I had it and I didn't know when I birthed her. And then you usually give it to your kids. So she's had a lot of emotional and physical things going on. But I think as adults, as adult as she seems, we have to find it within ourselves, this place where we are so strong that we just allow them to get angry, allow them to say whatever they say, hold that space for them, you know, don't lash out, don't say anything back, just, you know, be silent and love them. We need to love them more than anything else. It's kind of like the love we were missing as kids, right? Or the love we didn't correctly give to them, because we always talk about unconditional love, but in reality, we all have conditions around love, even with our kids.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to act this way to show that you love me. Well, no, they don't owe you anything.
No, that's a key. That's a huge one. They don't owe us anything.
They don't. They're not even ours, really. They're on loan, right?
Right.
So I'm trying to just be more adult. And I'm not saying I get this right every time. And we don't have that many arguments because, I mean, she just knows I'm there for me. Sometimes she doesn't call for a while and other times she calls every day.
Yeah.
You know, of just, she needs somebody in her life that is solid and grounded and centered and sure, who shows up for her and allows her to go through whatever she's going through and just let it be. And so I'm getting more in that space. It's taken me quite a while because, man, the stuff she said to me has really hurt me because a lot of it rang true.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I can't take it back and I can't do it over.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So I think it's like we were talking about evolution. It's a journey. It's a process. It's a process of loving yourself and forgiving yourself because you did the best you could do at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I fully hear that. And like so often I think, gosh, if I was who I am now when they were little, well, what is the point of that? Right? I can have that thought, but none of that is possible. Right?
And
53. I was 30. I'm never going back. Right? So it's that journey.
When I had Sarah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, what if what happened? Because we also talked about this, you know, right? I talk to so many people that we choose our parents, we choose our life story to come into, you know, problems and all that even means you and me, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what if everything was perfect exactly the way it was? Because we don't see the bigger picture. This is the mindset stuff, right?
Yeah.
I'd love to really, I'm going to share with your listeners also, because I do this in my processes with my clients, is to do like a journal of like evidence. So like with me, with all my big challenges, right? You can always look back over your life if you really feel into it and you sit and write down evidence for something greater, the divine, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, having your back, orchestrating things like people showing up at the right time that were unexpected or situations resolving things that were kind of miraculous, right? And so it's kind of like, look back over your life and see that. If you see that thread, that divine thread going through your life, then how can anything that you've been a part of be wrong or bad? It can't. It's been orchestrated. I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing.
I think I just healed that spot for myself right now, you know?
Wonderful. Yes.
How can it be wrong? And like, I loved what you said. If only I could go back, but what would be the point? And how would it be different? And why would it be different? You know what I mean? If you look at that, it's like, it's not even a possibility because it was what it was. And we can accept that and say, okay, well, you know what? Maybe our kids have more grit and determination and fire. Like some kids are depressed, but my daughter, she is a survivor and a thriver. Like she pushes through her shit like nobody's business. She works on herself too.
Right.
And she doesn't let things get her down. She has some depression and all that. And I think a lot of us do anyway, life situations, COVID, whatever, right?
Hello. Lockdown. Yeah.
But I mean, what if that was a gift to our kids? You know, what if we taught them that, like you were saying to me before we got on the interview, you know, what if my giant mess was so authentic and so real and so in their face that it was kind of like, yeah, but my mom rose above this. My mom did this. She left a relationship. She's now doing what she loves to do. So what if up, not what if down?
Yes. Yeah. A choice, right? There's a choice there. And I think it is, again, it's this idea from this day forward.
Right.
That's our only choice, right? From
That
this
is
day
exactly
forward.
right. That is exactly right. There's no point in mulling over the past because it's gone.
No. And we don't want to mull on it, but we want to work through it, or which you've totally claimed, and worked on. But in terms of with our children and still wanting to stay connected and still wanting to be authentic, but it's still me. It's still
today.
Me, right?
Change now. Make a difference now.
Yeah.
The thing that really bothers me is I haven't seen my kid in a year and a half, and I always think, what if I die and I don't get to see her again? That terrifies me.
Yes.
But the most I can do is, again, show up on calls. I send her things, I help her when she needs help, financially and otherwise, and she doesn't always want to take it. But I'm just trying to let her know, you know what? My parents, no matter what, especially my mom. I was a singer. I went on the road. I was broke for a while. You know, I did what I loved. I went to college to be a teacher, right? And instead I went and became a professional musician, which my dad wasn't real happy about because everybody else in my family had their degrees. But, you know, my mom would send me, I remember when I was in Houston, you know, I stopped between working on, you know, with show bands for a while. And I was working at the Steak and Ale in Houston, and I had nothing, no furniture. And my mom sent me this big care package, you know, with food and gifts and some money. And I thought, you know, that meant everything. So I want to be that for my daughter, you know?
Yeah. You want to be a big old care package wrapped up, right? Yes. I love that analogy.
Not overgiving, but being there, like a place to land, you know, if you need somebody or something. So yeah, I love that whole conversation. And it's so important just to move on from today and do the best you can do now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think when we heal ourselves in that moment, 100%. I always like to think about how when we heal our ancestral, you know, our lineage, we heal the past, we heal the karma, which when we heal us, we're healing our kids. And
the planet. We can go bigger, right? It's so true. It's so true. That, And I really appreciate your honesty in this, because I think this is key. This is the real life.
You're the one that's bringing, you're the instigator, the person who's holding space for this. You're the person who's, you know, instigator's not maybe a positive word, but you know what I'm saying.
I'm an instigator. A little bit of an instigator.
You're a facilitator. You're holding space.
There you go. Okay, thank you. So I'm loving this. I could talk to you for ages, and I'm like, okay, let's stick with parenting differently at the moment, and then we'll have to find another way to be together to go further with it. So let's leave it on looking back now. When you think of Lisa, the first time you held Sarah in your arms, I'm going to make you cry. Oh, we'll do that Oprah moment or whatever. No, make me cry. No, I wasn't planning to do that. What would you tell your younger self based on you now?
My younger self.
Holding that little baby.
I would say, you know, I remember that moment because I felt like after a 65+ hour labor and almost dying, I felt like Rocky, you know, on the top of the stairs.
Yeah. You're almost like,
and it was the most amazing moment, even though I was terrified. I had this little child, didn't know what to do with her. You know, I'm in this relationship, but in that moment, it was pure love, right? And I think what happened with my mom, I saw pictures of my mother holding me and taking care of me and loving me. But for some reason, she didn't connect with me. You know how they talk about if you don't have an emotional connection with your mother? And it's weird because my mother loved me and I loved my mom, but there was something missing emotionally for me as a baby, as a child. And I used to scream and cry as a child. I think my dad wanted to come in and throw me across the room because they couldn't shut me up. I was always fearful and anxious. So somewhere when I came in, I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel held. And, you know, the one thing that I'm really working on with my inner child now is that you are safe. You know, I fully choose to be here. I'm safe. I am so loved. And in reality, I don't even need anybody to love me. I need to love me. I know the universe loves me. I always love to think about how in this time and space, if you think about all the timelines that go different ways and all the places you've already been and where you're going to go and what's happening, you know, there's so many things happening, right? On a etheric, you know, scale. The universe loved you so much, you, me, that it decided to bring us here in this space and time. It's not just some random, you know, big bang, here we are. That's my belief anyway. And so I'm really trying to hold myself, you know, like I held my Sarah. And just love myself and say, you are so loved. Your mother loved you as best she could. And she, she did the best she could. That's great wisdom to share, that to younger you, that you are so loved. Yeah, like no matter what, no conditions, and not even by your parents, by the energy of the universe. If you look around, I'm getting emotional. One of the things that really, when I first met Joe, before we got together, when I interviewed him for one of my summits years ago, one of the things that really shifted me that he said, and that I will never forget, and I live my life by, is that the miracle is now, and that you are the miracle. Like we're always looking for miracles. We're always looking for someone to fill that space inside of us. Sorry, I'm having a hot flash and I'm turning bright red.
Love it.
It's really true. I mean, we are a miracle. We don't breathe our lungs. We don't beat our heart. You know, how is it that we're here? And how is it that that happens? I would say that happens from a space of love. That's a gift. And so if we can really get into the space of connecting with the divine energy that brought us here and that breathes us until we leave, that is a space of pure freaking love. You know, and that's where we need to go, because that heals everything. Oh my God. You're like facilitating an amazing space. But
I just want to kind of sit like this. That was powerful what you just said. That was like, whew.
I will never forget him saying that, because that's been my life. I mean, even being with him is a miracle. All the things that we've been through are miracles. Our children are miracles. You know, the things that we survive and thrive, you know, above. I don't like the word survive, because I like to thrive. I like to move beyond, you know, one notch beyond. When you think about, like I said, make sure, people, that you do your journals, because when you look back, you really got to connect. You got to stay out of your head, stay off the media, stay away from reality, you know, and bring you in to the powers that brought you here and what that means and what that is. And that's miracles and love. And that's all day, 24/7, 365 days a year. Whew.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Lisa. This has been really remarkable.
You. Wow.
Really, really.
You're amazing. You're amazing. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. So for some housework, please subscribe, and you will find all about this lovely Lisa in the comments of this video. We'll have her bio and how you can reach her and her programs, and you just want to be in her energy of healing. She is a miracle. That's how I feel. So thank you. Thank you so much.